There's a larger topic, and that topic that guides the entire festival is Akwa Ibom Indigenous arts and the global market space. So what has been given to me as a sub-theme, a subtopic, content aesthetics and brand mechanization, is to expand that larger topic in a dimension that will place us on a better standing to explore our artistic potential as a nation. We'll begin by looking at the space Nigeria. For many years now, from the beginning of independence and prior to the period of Nigeria's political independence, there has been this dependency on crude oil earnings. And then recently, there has been an attempt to get alternative earnings from gas, solid mineral, agriculture, and I see so much also happening in developing what is called the knowledge-based economy. But our interest this morning is actually to explore another dimension, another area where Nigeria has also invested a lot of strength, that is the creative economy, which contains the performing arts, visual arts, and aspects of literary arts. The content of all these areas you probably already know, and particularly from the area of performing arts where we do the things that we already know. In the visual arts, yes, I have to say that the performative arts are largely also visual. But where we pointedly call the visual arts, you can make reference to drawing, painting, sculpture, graphics, textiles, and so forth. And literary arts, of course, all these things feed the performative art. So we prefer to look at performing art as the melting pot of all the arts. Then beyond these restricted core artistic areas, we also have indigenous art and craft consisting poetry, wood carving, bronze work, beading, dyeing, leather work, and weaving, and of course metallurgy. All these things have been in place in Nigeria like 2,500 years before Christ was born. And I'm making particular reference to the North civilization that has been producing terracotta, and that area around Jos up to Katsina, up to Abuja area is still known for pottery up till today. So the creative resources in Nigeria is vast. And we have to also observe that IMF, that's the International Monetary Funds, recognized the fact that the creative sector alone in Nigeria accounted for about 239 billion naira of the nation's GDP as at 2016. I've not seen a current record, but I can imagine between 2016 and now, so much has changed. It's an emerging and rapidly growing area, the area of creative economy. And Akwa Ibom State is a major contributor in Nigeria's creative economy. So the intention of this presentation is to evaluate the resources we have in Akwa Ibom State, and then to look at the dimensions of our contribution from this state to the national cultural economy, and then strategize ways to extend our cultural productivity from Akwa Ibom State. But I have some cardinal areas where I need to explain the variables that guide this presentation, the first of which is content aesthetics. But we'll dwell more about on aesthetics, which is the study and analysis of beauty, analysis of the nature of beauty. That's actually Dunbarton's perspective, a mid-18th century definition that he gave, and his concern is to assess what constitutes beauty. That is Dunbarton's definition of aesthetics. And when you are assessing what constitutes beauty, it's essential that you look at the elements of creation and the principles of creation. That is to say that a typical artwork is made up of the basic elements and the principles, whereby you could say the artwork is a container of the elements and principles of expression. But let's also understand that aesthetics in the performing arts and aesthetics in the visual art have certain differences. If you pick on certain principles of creation or even the elements of creation, you will see that there are some slight differences between one and the other. For instance, if you pick up rhythm, when you talk about rhythm in the performing art, what comes to mind is musical rhythm, the type we've been listening to since morning. It's different from the kind of rhythm we have in visual arts, where you can have alternating forms, alternating elements like line, tall, short, and that creates like a typical beat that alternates, and that could be described as rhythmic in the realm of visual arts. There are many other examples. Then from another perspective, for us to understand the notion of aesthetics, we look at Immanuel Kant's submission, where he brought in some elements of subjective judgment, where he said that for you to understand this matter called aesthetics, is not enough to look at the nature of that creation, of that art product. You should also look at the circumstances under which they were conceived and expressed. So he's asking that in assessing or in studying aesthetics, you look at the nature of the artist. And that's talking about the baggage that the artist carries when delivering a work of art. His expertise, his exposure, his skills, his dexterity would come to define the kind of art that he has brought to the fore. He also suggests that we study the role of the artist. And in studying the role of the artist, you want to find out whether the artist is an imitator or an originator. And that brings to mind the theory, the mimetic theory of Plato, that says that art is imitation. So an instance where an artist copies is different from the instance where the artist creates an original work of art. And this, Kant says, should be considered in analyzing the aesthetics of an artwork. He also says that we should look at the relationship between the person appropriating the artwork and the artwork itself. As you're looking at an artwork, as you're analyzing the components of an artwork, it's what you know. Your analysis will be within the realms of your knowledge. What you know about the artwork is what you will analyze. Your understanding of color symbolism in the situation of your culture is how you will analyze and understand color as an element of artistic creation. So there are subjective elements while we're looking at the forms of creation, the nature of creation. Kant suggests that we should also look at the subjective elements when we're studying aesthetics. Yet from another perspective, there's a relationship between aesthetics and utilitarianism. So this is an interrogation of the form and function relationship. So what comes to mind is the Sullivan axiom. Sullivan was an architect. He brought an axiom that says form follows function, which means the function of an artwork determines the form that it takes. If your artwork is a hat, for instance, or a shoe, or a cloth, it has to assume the structure that will fit to serve the function for which it was meant. And it's actually the structure that ultimately defines the shape. And mentioning the shape, your mind now goes back to one of the elements of creation. So Sullivan argues that there's a relationship between the form and the function, and all this should be considered when looking at the issue of aesthetics. Branding refers to the process of creating a strong perception of preference towards products or services using a number of elements, dominant of which are the graphic elements, the images, the copies. Copies are the textual labels that follow the logo, for instance. All these things are items that help you to identify the brand. Closely linked to the word branding is the word, the expression brand identity. And here you're looking at the logo, the trademark, the communication, the visual appearance, and other cardinal features of brand identity. Permit me to also say that once we mention brand, it's not always about that which is visual. Brand can also refer to that which is sonic, talks about sound. There are some adverts that you will hear, like MTN. There's a sound, there's a music track that goes with MTN adverts, and without even looking at the visuals, you'll know that that is MTN. There are some things that you test, and you know that, yes, this belongs to this category. Particularly for those who are wine connoisseurs, there are some wines that you drink, and you know that, yes, this is Italian from a certain region, Spanish wine from a certain region, this is Kai Kai from Abak, and all that. You will know which. And that's how you can distinguish between beer and rum or whiskey because of the taste. So everyone carries a brand label. Sometimes it's about the tactile quality or how you feel it. Sometimes brand is even how it smells. The aroma of Calvin Klein perfume different from Paco Rabanne and all those ones who study perfumes. There are some iconic brands that you know. If you look at the screen, for those of you in ICT, I'm sure you'll be able to see some brands that are ICT related. Those are the brands. For those of you who are conversant with some labels, some fashion labels, you see at the center Nike, Adidas, Yves Saint Laurent. And these are iconic brands. These are labels that once you see, you know what they do, you know what they represent. And I'm just imagining that from AXU, we can propose a kind of image that would carry this cultural brand we're trying to develop, to convey our performance, to convey our artistic forms in multiple dimensions. Then the other component of this variable is mechanization. It's the process of introducing automatic devices. And when we introduce these things, sometimes they displace humans on the wall. You can imagine, since when ATM was brought in, how many bank staff have been laid off. That is the process of mechanization. But here we're not introducing mechanization to displace anybody. We're introducing or proposing the inclusion of this component of practice, of execution in the arts to be able to enhance productivity. So in the context of art marketing and written, the brand mechanization could be engaged to push an artistic product, an idea to potential audiences. Again, we will look at some of the artistic brands from Akwa Ibom State. Maybe at this point, we'll begin to peel the layers. Perhaps the most outstanding of all the artistic forms is the category I call Akwa Ibom Film. It could be very difficult to define the one that we call Akwa Ibom Film or movie, if you like. For me, the convenient label or the convenient description to this label is every film that is scripted based on indigenous Akwa Ibom cultures, whether they're directed by Akwa Ibom directors, whether they're acted by Akwa Ibom actors or indigenous languages, for me, does not matter. Those do not matter. For me, it's essential that they convey Akwa Ibom culture, since this is what we're trying to market. The film industry in Akwa Ibom is an offshoot of Nollywood and is evolving rapidly too. Again, by general assessment, this time 2019, it was seen that Nollywood movie industry, that's the Nigerian movie industry alone, contributed an annual revenue to the national economy of between $500 million and $1 billion, and that's no small money. So in the ranking made by IMF again, it was seen that the movie industry in Nigeria is the second biggest employer of labor, engaging about 300,000 people directly. Maybe those ones are the actors, the directors, those squarely on the job, and then on the remote angle, more than 1 million people have been engaged by this industry, maybe those who have benefited from a distance from trajectories of the film industry. That's between 2019 and now, so you can imagine between 2019 and 2023, so much has happened in the industry. So note that the Akwa Ibom movie industry has limited potential And these have been enhanced by a number of people, which I must mention. When you look at the Akwa Ibom film industry, some faces, some characters, some personnel come in dominantly. And one of them is Mechanisation. She's one of the best producers, directors, screenwriters in Nigeria. And she has the Royal Art Academy in Lagos. But what is most striking about her is that she has opened the way for many Akwa Ibom performers. She engages them, assimilates them, and then builds them to become proficient in the art of filmmaking. She has pioneered the making of a lot of films which have been listed on that screen. There are many more people. If you look at the faces, probably you'll identify them. And I even wanted to leave a blank space so that if you like, you put your own image there, because I see you emerging into that industry very strong from what I've been seeing on this stage. So that many movie stars who are not just representing Akwa Ibom, but are making indelible marks of creativity in the industry. There are plenty of them. And something remarkable happened last year at the inauguration of Association of Movie Producers in Akwa Ibom State. But what struck me about that event is the comment that was made by the national president that Akwa Ibom State can become the hub of Nigeria's creative economy. When you analyze our culture from every dimension, from the language to the art, even our inclination to religion, our dressing, then you'll know that we have so much to offer to Nigeria's creative economy. Then the other aspect of the performing art is music. It's interesting. Maybe it's a matter of concern that very many Akwa Ibom people are not really known outside Akwa Ibom when it comes to musical expression. Perhaps for me in the stage I made using different stage mechanisms and engines, and also by interviews, interrogations, perhaps the foremost is Nathaniel Bassey. There are others on the contemporary list. You probably have heard of Mish. His name is Anyeke Memeshak, the one who sang Akwa Ibom Oyaya, MC Galaxy, Sugar Boy. These ones are prominent. But when you put them on the pedestal and then you put what the Yoruba boys are doing, then you see that we still have a lot to cover. I see a lot of stars, but I think we need people to market us to come up. Now, from the Akwa Ibom soil, I know that there are musicians that perform with huge followership. There was a time somebody called Sawilka was a flavor around the people, among the people of Akwa Ibom. But there are many more people like Sawilka. I hear them on Akwa Ibom radio. I hear them on several broadcast stations. But I have come to see that their digital footprint, their internet footprint is very faint. They sing very well and they have a wide range of followership, but they have not been properly propped up by way of elevating them, promotion and all those things, exposing them to the international platform. But the person I want to celebrate on this list this morning is called Ukokwan. The man was an icon. He was a cultural ambassador. He was a phenomenon. If you sit down and you listen to, from the instrumentations to the lyrics was pure literature, but turned into music, was a social commentator. And I'm wondering, if people could study Fela, why are we not studying Ukokwan? There are many musicians that have emerged, that have been celebrated in other parts of Nigeria, and I want to propose that we begin an in-depth study of Ukokwan and the work that he has done to propel Akwa Ibom culture. That is the homework for everyone in this hall. Live theater performances, that's another area of performative arts, like what we're doing. The celebration we've been having for how many days now? This is the third day, 2 more days. This has come up not just in AXU, similar things happen in the University of U, but I've analyzed that mostly we have festival of performances around the academic institutions. This could also be expanded. So we have live theater performances. Now, we go to Indigenous festivals. We have Ekpo Festival across the entire Akwa Ibom State. I'm still analyzing the cultural resources that we have so that we know how we market them in Akwa Ibom and beyond on all the various platforms that we will propose. When you talk about Ekpo, there are many types of Ekpo, some of which I have listed there, from the lower category, and all those that categories. Basically, masters. The center point of Ekpo is the mask, and that is what attracts people. Maybe not much of the other parts of the costume or regalia, but the mask, the attraction of the mask, is what Ekpo Festival represents. A well-organized Ekpo setting, from the beats of the drum to the dances, just that they can be a bit scattered, but I will make a proposal. It's something that is worth watching. We also have Ekwe in some parts of Akwa Ibom State. And then we have the agricultural festivals, where there are performances like the yam festivals, a festival dominated by the female cults, and we have the cassava festival. I think after 2018, I'm not sure this festival has come up again. If others are celebrating and almost deifying yam, I think we should also be doing that regarding cassava in Akwa Ibom. If you look at cassava and what it represents to us, 3/4 of us here in this place depend on cassava for survival. Yes. Look at it as iwa, as gari, as whatever, however you make it. And there's no reason we should not have cassava festival entrenched in our cultural performances. Now, that was in the area of performing arts. Let's look at some of the resources we have in the area of visual arts. And I'll look at the personalities, first and foremost, beginning from the first female professor of fine arts in Nigeria, Professor Stella Idiom. Together with Ben Ekanem, the father of sculpture in Akwa Ibom State, who has done so many works around Nigeria, the foremost of which is Queen Amina at the National Theatre. Still as part of contemporary Akwa Ibom arts, we have painting, graphics, and some names also come to mind. Inyarema, who led the practice from NTA for many years until he passed on, was from Akwa Ibom. Ceramics, also known as pottery, because of the raw materials, the clay holdings around many deposits in the state, we have the proliferation of that practice. There's a particular village in Ikoma that is called Mbiafon Uborogo, Mbiafon that makes pot, that's so acclaimed for indigenous pottery that, for me, I propose, as one of those things I've been proposing, that it should be a tourist destination. There's also fashion and textiles that has so evolved. And once I had the opportunity to develop a set for We Are a Fashion show that was held at Ibom Hall, somewhere way back, I think about 2005, 2006. Since then, I've not seen that kind of elaborate fashion show. But we have so much now that we can now define our dress identity. So if you see a typical Akwa Ibom person, put that picture on the screen. Are you with me? A typical Akwa Ibom person, you will know that indeed this is an Akwa Ibom person by the way he dresses. And the fashion continues to evolve for men and for women. There's indigenous Akwa Ibom crafts. And when craft is mentioned, one location comes to mind, and that place is Ikodekwene, also known as the Raffia City. So much magic has been done with raffia in Ikodekwene. The raffia center, not the center, the craft shop, as you're going to Aparo, for me, should also be developed and made a tourist attraction to attract people to come and see our cultural resources. There's one place, I think it's in Ikodekwene local government, called Oruuso, meaning the birthplace of crafts. There have been a lot of craftsmen from that particular village. Like Mbiafon Uborogo, I would also recommend that Oruuso should be given a kind of pepper to prop it up to one of those destinations that we have in Akwa Ibom State. Carvings from Oron, Ekpo carvings that have formed the props, the center point of collection for the Oron Museum. That was started by Kenneth Murray way back when he was the first curator of the National Museum in Lagos. he started that museum. So these are some of the things that we have. We could go on and on, but we'll just skip some of them. There are contemporary trends in the global art market, which we have to understand before we begin to market our cultural resources. The foremost is the fact that the global art market is very competitive. There's intense competition. Now, there are many more artists. There are many more art events. And so the situation is for survival of the fittest. If your own is not good enough, but even if it's not good at all, you can make a lot of noise about it and then people will get to know. That's part of the competition, to bring the attention of people to your products. There's intensive use of the virtual environment and digital options in arts marketing. In fact, almost every aspect of marketing, in fact, not just marketing, production and the presentation and the consumption, everything now, almost everything is rested on the virtual environment. In terms of the production, we have computer-aided design, we have apps that address that, we have graphic and editing apps, 2-, 3-dimensional printing options that simplify production, so you do not have to sculpt directly. Sometimes you can do 3D printing by feeding the image into a computer and it rolls it out using any substrate that you want. Then we also have, as part of this addiction to the virtual environment, the proliferation of short video editing platforms. Maybe for bigger works, Adobe Premiere has been used, but we see a lot of us here seated using CapCut, Apple iMovie, InShot, and all these things that we use to produce content, skits for social media. So the proliferation of these platforms now enhance production. So you do not need to pay. All you have to do is download the app and you can process whatever idea you want for consumption. Very remarkable also is the emergence of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. People don't just produce solid art now. They now burn the art. That's the technical term that is used when you convert physical art to virtual art. Many things can be burnt in NFT format, from the artworks that we produce, physical art, to the performances that we do on stage, to even tweets. Another trend in the contemporary art market is the fact that we also use the virtual environment for exhibition. I've been talking about production, virtual environment for production. And now for exhibition, we have online exhibition, like this event where we are now is live streamed. And I learned the first day about 5,000 people keyed in and we were watching. So that's the trend, live streaming of performances and exhibitions. And then sometimes these things are recorded and hosted in certain environments, for example, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so forth. They have rich theatrical resources, some of which are obtained from Broadway, and some of which are obtained from the Far East, which you can key in, download, and also watch. So there's that preservation value that has been given to us via these platforms. There are also virtual galleries and art shops. This, for me, is probably the strongest benefit from the COVID years when art was restricted, when movement was restricted, art consumption was restricted, everything got onto a platform, and that became a major site of expression. Many of the major exhibitions across the world, from Brussels to Dubai to Cologne in Germany, were done virtually. And there's also the proliferation of digital multimedia theater. Now there's the infusion of the crossbreed of presentations whereby you use live actors and digital screen, a kind of multimedia approach, a hybrid art form presentation. We are evolving into that space rapidly. And then the screening of art forms, there's an addiction to the screen. Fewer people come to the theater for live theater performances. Many more people consume art on the screen. That's why we have a lot of patronage for the film industry. Another issue we should note concerning the evolving trends is the fact that the virtual environment is very potent for marketing. There is the fusion of art and utilitarian production. That's another trend. the use of activity pools and captive audience. So you have Olympics, you have football tournament, but you see performances. In fact, some of the best lighting systems I've seen have been during the opening and closing ceremonies of Olympics. And so these things now have captive audience because many people want to come together and watch sports, and then you drop a performance to that captive audience. We also have the same in church. There are some churches you enter in Abuja and Lagos, and you think you are in a theater. And because of the love of God, people go to church, and when they get to church, they see art in display. That's a trend. And then finally, the celebrity endorsement phenomenon. Such are the things, the trends that we find in the industry. So as we are marketing, we have to observe the trend and we flow according to the trend. But the reality is, while we have, for instance, a lot of masks in Akwa Ibom, a lot of masquerades echoed in Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom is not the only place that we have masquerades. We also have masquerades in Rivers State and many other states. So how do we make our own stand out? I'm trying to underline the need for marketing and aggressive marketing. For Akwa Ibom State, it's essential to develop, first of all, a unique brand. And that's really, as I'm winding down now, I'll be running through what we need to do to compete favorably in marketing the cultural resources that I have analyzed for quite a while. First of all, let us even update our cultural statistics. What I did briefly was to update our statistics. What do we have? Before you go to the market to purchase items, you want to find out what do I have in the house to know what I'm going to buy. So it's essential for you to upgrade your cultural resources, do a kind of stock taking within your operational environment, because effective planning can only be possible where there are proper statistics at any point in time. And then the second suggestion here is that we should develop our brands and start the process of brand mechanization. So once you know what you have, you see how you can brand it. And remember, in our definition, our discussing on branding, you can support that with an image. Support that with a kind of writing that once you know, like once you see Nike, there is a slogan that follows it. So if we come out with a logo that represents the Akwa Ibom brand, can we now begin to look at the kind of slogan that should follow it? And we will choose colors, we will choose forms to carry that logo and slogan. So we'll use Cross River State as an example. When Donald Duke was governor of Cross River State, he came out with the slogan, Destination Cross River, to promote the tourism value, the tourism brand of Cross River State. And then he brought in Carnival as the flagship of tourism in Cross River State. That was not enough. As part of Destination Cross River, he went to the mountains to Obudu Ranch. When he got to Obudu Ranch, what he did was to build a cable car. And that cable car has one of the longest ranges in the world, and it's so established. And then he started mountain tourism by beginning mountain race. So people were coming from all over the world to be a part of Obudu mountain race. And they would pay to compete in that race. Donald Duke had brought a lot of people. In fact, before Tinapa even finished, he was marketing Tinapa on CNN. So you tune CNN and Tinapa was far from completed, and you see the promo on Tinapa on the baseline of your TV. So that marketing was that aggressive. I'm aware that somewhere in Akwa Ibom, there was a time, there was a call from which ministry now controls that function, that we should begin to market Akwa Ibom tourism. And there was a call for logo. Plenty logos came out. See if you can flash onto some of those logos. And one of which was even the Dakada initiative. All these things have been attempts to brand Akwa Ibom. So we have what I call logo noise. Even on official documents, you see alternate logos. That means we have not adopted a brand. When we adopt a brand, we'll be able to push that brand by some processes of mechanization to fast track it into the global market for wide consumption. So if I say which one represents Akwa Ibom of all the logos there, because there's no consensus, it was not ever completed. It's different from Cross River, the top left logo, that's Destination Cross River. As you are entering Calabar, Calabar may not be comparable now to you, but I'm using this as an effective branding process. As you're entering Calabar, you see Destination Cross River. In every communication from the Department of Tourism, Department of Culture and Heritage, that logo has to be there, and so Cross River was marketed strongly. And then, of course, from the Carnival Commission, you see all those logos. Let me give credit to Ibom Air. And if we evaluate the success of Ibom Air, it has helped us to raise the pedestal where we could build our brand. So if Ibom Air is successful, supposing we come with Ibom Art and Culture, and then we develop a logo that will fit with that already elevated Ibom brand. Ibom Air, by the way, is the best airline in Nigeria in terms of the buildings, of the aircraft, in terms of punctuality. The fine practices in the system all have been embedded within that brand structure, and it's so accurate. So now it's easy to leverage on something that has been on existence. So we can also build our own and sustain our own. Another thing we can do is to create a standardized calendar for cultural events. Let's now assume that every beginning of July or June, July or thereabout, we will have Akwa Fest, provided we do not disrupt the academic calendar. And elsewhere, maybe in UNU, or maybe a private initiative will come in, and then it's when these events are regular that you can capture them within a calendar. So somebody planning to spend the rainy season around here can plan to watch Echo Festival in a given location, and after that, the following day, they'll come for Aksu Fest and so forth. So when these things are standardized within a calendar, where you have a calendar of cultural events, then it's easy to draw patronage. Then we have to break the accessibility barriers and taboos. There are cultural limitations concerning some of the artistic brands, the cultural brands I have reeled out. For instance, Echo is not supposed to be seen by non-initiates, especially women. Can we just do the brand of Echo that everybody can go and watch and enjoy? And leave those ones that attend to rituals in their ritualistic domains to operate and enjoy that domain. But if we have that brand, when we showcase our varieties of mask carvings, then we can make it more friendly so that we attract audiences to come and see the things that we do. Then we should open up participation for the cultural events that are competitive. The way Cross River State opened up the mountain race tourism initiative, we could also open up our wrestling contests. We could open up a swimming contest where they do swimming, particularly in the marine areas around E2. Then we should organize a lot more film festivals, because I've said before, there's migration from the stage to the screen. These things could be accommodated. Festivals would help those ones developing new ideas to go and showcase their products and for others to market, not just the products, but the talent behind the products. Then we should engage partnership from museums, galleries, studios, cultural centers. They help to display. Now, these are locations that, again, must be captured in our cultural statistics so that we know how many cultural centers are there, how many museums do we have in Akwa Ibom, how many galleries do we have in Akwa Ibom. We engage them as partners to help to propagate our own artistic ideas. We organize symposia like this one to sensitize the people, because if the people do not know, they will not produce, they will not engage in those enterprises. You only know what you are. You only do what you understand and what you know. If your parents will tell us, you'll be inclined to go into tailoring because you grew up in that tradition. If they were traders, you want to extend that trade. So if we are craftsmen and we train us to become better craftsmen highly dexterous in the works that we do, then we'll have a lot of production capacity. And then we should embrace and utilize digital art forms. The 10th idea I want to propose is that we adopt new age marketing strategies. Sometimes it's easy for people to sit at home and buy tickets. We have e-tickets that are easy to purchase, e-bookings, e-payments, all these things. And so, again, I want to suggest from this festival, we can edit some of the things that the performances that we have on stage here, and then upload them on YouTube and have people to click on them. So from the comfort of their spaces, they can participate and we earn money continuously, not just during festivals. We should develop virtual exhibition spaces and broadcast network. Some of these things are done and streamed live. I have said that before. This is being streamed. Calabar Carnival is also being streamed. The interesting thing is that once you stream on the right platform like DSTV, a lot of companies will want to advertise because of the popularity of that product. And for the adverts that come during the period that you bought to stream your event live on the screen, you have a part of the earnings. DSTV will have a part of that earnings. So there are a lot of platforms to make money. And then we create alliance with other sectors. So art does not just stand alone. Art can be used as a promotional tool, just as it's been used as a marketing tool. And that way, we get mutual strength and then we are mutually indispensable. Funds should be provided, I'm rounding up now, for art and cultural sector. If agriculture could be funded, if farmers could receive loans, why should artists not receive loans to produce things? I think this should also be studied by government and web institutions that offer such facilities. Then we can offer tax relaxation for art entrepreneurs. So the items that we use for production, we can give some kind of tax rebate. And finally, we must enhance security at cultural events. Without security, our cultural events cannot be properly situated. So whatever we do from our artistic domains, let's see how we can push Igbo culture to the world. We are all stakeholders and we must put in a lot of effort to develop trend-compliant brands. And that's why I took my time to go through the trends. This is what is happening now. So if you follow the trend, then you'll elevate very fast. But if you stay within your cultural domain and practice, then you'll soon become moribund. Ali Masrui once said that humans are homo aestheticus, homo sapiens. Homo aestheticus means that humans are the only creations that stop to appraise beauty, aesthetics. Now, if that is what we are doing, then we are struggling to intensify our humanity. If we are pushing our cultural brands to the world, if we are surviving based on our artistic productions, then it is the intensification of our humanity. And in our attempts to market art, we are also expanding productivity. So it's a two-pronged benefit. While we are intensifying our humanity, we are also expanding our creativity.